This is the Growth to Freedom Show. Now, here is your host, Dan Kuschell.
Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that helps you transform your life, business, and relationships. I'm Dan Kuschell, and thanks for making us part of your day. We've got a great show today. We've got Dr. Cristy Lopez back in the house, and we're going to talk about money, how to make it, how to keep it. In fact, we're going to talk about, have you ever been in a situation where you replayed the same blueprints or scripts over and over again with money? No matter how much you made, something happened that got in the way. Well, there's a way to deal with that, and Dr. Lopez is going to be able to talk about that. We've also got Phil Mutrie joining us, Phil Mutrie Network. He's going to talk about strategies and tactics of being able to make more money and some things that you can do to take your expertise, regardless of your background, regardless of your experience, and convert that into something that creates more value creation in the world. So it's an exciting show today. And by the way, the show is presented by Genius Network. All of our guests brought to you through the Genius Network hotline. We'd love to connect with you. You can join us on Twitter at Dan_Kuschell. That's Dan_Kuschell, or email the show at info@growthtofreedom.com. That's info@growthtofreedom.com. So we're going to dive into it because we're going to give you more clarity, confidence, and capabilities starting now. Right now. Are you ready? Because here's the thing. Do you know people who suffer from financial stress? In fact, there was a report that came out that Dr. Lopez is going to hit on, but money issues keep people up at night. Arguments about money are by far the top predictor of divorce. And having been there, done that, I guess I have the T-shirt to prove it, so to speak. Not that I'm proud of that T-shirt, and ideally that's not a script that I'll be repeating, and I hope you won't repeat that either. And so we're here to deliver value to you starting now. So Dr. Lopez, if you're just joining us and you don't know Dr. Lopez is a psychologist here in the area, in the Valley, in Phoenix. She's worked with well over 1,000 clients in her practice. And she's been on Dr. Phil, the show Downsized. She is an absolute expert at helping you improve your mental state, be able to help you with transition, just a better outlook. I've actually worked with her over the last few years, and I am a big fan, of course. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Great to be back.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. So we're going to dive into it. And by the way, not only are you going to get strategies about money and how it impacts you, but you're going to actually get some tools around beliefs, most of them false beliefs. We're going to also dive into the values that contributed to the decision. Do you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, why do I make these financial decisions the way I do? Whether it's individually or maybe as a couple, or maybe you have a partner, you make decisions one way, your partner makes it another way, it creates conflict. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. So let's dive into this because I found it fascinating, this statistic that you shared with me as we were preparing for the show, Dr. Lopez, that from the Stress in America survey study, 72% reported feeling stressed about money at least some of the time during the past 30 days. Yep. Now, why is that?
Yeah, money is a very emotionally laden subject for people. And money is something that is in everyone's lives. So when they do the survey about what are people stressed about, money always comes out highly on top. Above everything, even above sex, above raising children. Money is the thing that most people seem to really hone in on and consistently stress and worry about. And unfortunately, they don't necessarily really do anything about it. They just keep kind of repeating their same stress over and over, and possibly even like making it worse or getting worse by then arguing with their significant other, arguing with someone else about it. And then it just keeps replaying because people don't work out these things. Instead, they just keep replaying these problems.
And it's amazing because I can relate to that. I think there's a fear around money and also a fear around admitting you don't have complete understanding of money. And isn't it interesting? And see, I'm here to share with you, I don't think it's your fault. I don't think it's my fault. Whether it's lack of money or lack of ability to keep money overall, why, years and years ago, I talk about it in my book, actually, that we've got a special gift package, by the way, so stay tuned, because later in the show, we're going to talk about how you can get your hands on a very special gift package, an arsenal of tools and resources that will help you as it relates to money, help you mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. But for me, I talk about in my book years ago, I had gone through bankruptcy, and I'm not proud of that, and it was a mistake. But one of the things that I came to realize is that part of what held me back is I suppressed my responses around money, and I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I felt guilty that I was like one person in the world that maybe didn't have my stuff together around how to deal with money. And I found that, there's a lot of other people who deal with this. In fact, I believe in my heart of hearts that this is a disease in this country. It's the biggest disease in this country, and it's called financial illiteracy. And in the report that you shared with me, I'm so passionate about this because most people fight mostly inside themselves. I believe for 7 years on a topic like money before they ever go out and seek help. You know what? I want to challenge you. I want to shake you up right here, right now with Dr. Lopez and her incredible wisdom and say, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to be humiliated. There's a lot of people who have money issues, and it's not your fault. But guess what? It is your responsibility to do something about it. You don't have to struggle with money. You don't have to struggle with savings. There is a solution. So talk about the solution. I know it starts, first with the beliefs. Money, the response, or how money shows up. It's an inside-out proposition, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you talked about challenging people to get help early. Early. Because that is the thing. People, by the time people call me, they already have racked up like years worth of this issue and this problem that they have become very good at. And then they usually call right, whereas in their mind, kind of the last-ditch effort kind of thing. How effective are you going to be at working on something when you are already at that point? Behind the eight ball. Yeah.
At a place where you're so far in the hole, probably in debt. It's the old idea. If you're watching, listening right now, dig a well before you're thirsty, as the old ancient Chinese proverb goes.
Yeah, and emotionally. So a lot of times I have to back people up to even help them be able to then take what I'm saying and then work with it. So, sorry, I think I kind of went...
No, I think that this is a great start. So let's dive into some of the false beliefs or the evidence of beliefs around money, and what are some of the common themes you hear, and what are some things that people can do to, I guess, improve upon that, to adjust it, to adapt, to modify, if not exponentially improve.
Yes. So the thing is, I see it as kind of two ways. You talked about financial literacy. And in my mind, I see that more as the actual cognitive, rational, knowledge-based type things. You do need to know that information, but your emotional side of things, your brain and the way it works with the script of money or your emotion around money, that can quickly override your rational part. So I suggest and recommend people work on both. You need to have the cognitive, rational tools and knowledge, but you need to have those tools and knowledge emotionally so that your subconscious doesn't go in there and overrun what you're trying to do rationally, because people do that all the time. They actually are relatively good when in terms of money and how you handle it and what you do with it, how you make it, how you keep it, how you grow it, all of these things. But then inevitably their money schema or their script will jump in there and blow it all to bits.
And speaking of blowing it all to bits, I know when we come back after this short break, I'd love for you to go a little bit deeper into that. But before we break, what's one quick question in 20 seconds or less that someone could be asking themselves when it comes to making financial decisions?
The first basic question would be, what are my beliefs around money?
What are my beliefs around money? So there you have it. What are your beliefs around money? And while we're on the break, I want you to think about that. Write down a couple answers as far as your beliefs. We're going to talk about what Dr. Lopez has found to be some of the common themes that she's seen in her 1,000+ clients that she's worked with. Then we're going to talk about how you can adjust those beliefs. We're going to talk about how you can work with your values, how to make better decisions, that and a whole lot more coming up after this break. Back to growthtofreedom.com, the show that helps you transform your life, business, and relationships. We're talking about money, how to make it, how to keep it. Let's go ahead and summarize the first segment of the show. We've been talking about some of the statistics that show that most of us are messed up when it comes to money, and there is a solution. In fact, we left off the first break with the idea of what are your beliefs around money. So why don't we jump in there?
Yes. So the first thing to do is to try and become aware of what are your beliefs around money.
What are your beliefs around money?
Yeah. Are you able to identify your beliefs around money? So somebody could have a belief that money is love, like they're equating it to something like that. Usually when it comes to money, it is things like love, security, pleasure, things like that.
And why is that? At a deeper level, why do you find from the people that you've worked with, what shows up that caused that this is what it means? Money,
so I think I kind of always say this a lot, but I should probably get deeper into it. Money is very emotionally laden, okay, which is money has a lot that's attached to it from a deeper level, like the part of your brain that is more like the basic limbic type system of your brain, that is like survival, like basic survival type things, fear, pleasure, things like that. It's very emotional. When you're in that realm, your cognitive part that is the more rational side of things, they don't live together.
They don't even know what they don't know to a degree. Is that right?
Yeah, and they don't live together or communicate together. So people usually are kind of operating out of this emotion and these subconscious things. So, and it's very powerful. That stuff is very powerful, and it gets replayed over and over throughout your life until you become aware. So bring it into your consciousness and become aware what your beliefs are. And then you work and you process through that stuff so that you can then better use your rational adult mind to deal with money and how you handle it and your relationship with it. Because usually what's happening is you are operating off of your childhood emotional mind.
Which many times can be false beliefs, right?
Most of the time they are false beliefs. People in general have very irrational thinking. But then you put it to a child trying to understand something about money.
So as an example, if a child gets showered with gifts as a methodology to buy their love, is that one way you see that it shows up, that they feel that, gifts are a sign of love?
Exactly.
And not getting gifts means, they don't love me?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. If you identify that you have some belief around money, that money equals love, then you're trying to figure out, where did that come from? Where did that originate from? And usually it's this. It's something usually these beliefs come from either traumatic events or ordinary things or both. Okay, so maybe you just kind of see in the ordinary life how your parents are operating with money with other people, with money with you. And then maybe there are some like seminal type events that happen where it's like, my father was unable to come to my birthday party because he was traveling and he was working, but he sent me the best gift ever. Like, my father always sends me the best gifts ever. So see, he really does love me because he sent me this gift. It's not that big of a deal that he couldn't necessarily be here because he gave me that gift. And that's how I feel loved, because your brain is trying to help you out in the best way it can. And it will try and shape a story to help yourself. So if you're a little kid and you're feeling as if, hey, my dad's not here, you don't want to believe that that's something negative. So then you can fashion a story that, but he sent me this gift. So gifts are how you really show love. Or maybe you have hurts as a child, and so your mom, in trying to help you with those hurts, takes you shopping. Oh, okay. So now you learn, how do you deal when you're hurt? You deal with it by going shopping.
And it's interesting that you say that. I don't know if you've dealt with issues around money, or maybe, the I guess misconceptions around money. A lot of it is the ability that at any point the past doesn't equal the future. And we can truly, if we decide to, come up with a newer, better way and install that within our mindset or our belief system, our value system, to really make the shift to have a more supportive, empowering belief around money.
Exactly. And that's the thing of going through all those steps. So you got to recognize what your beliefs are. Where did they come from? So then what lessons did I get from that? And how is that negatively affecting me now? Because you really need to see how this is playing out. So now as an adult, if you have this belief that money equals love or gifts equal love, then what are you going to do? You're probably going to be buying people gifts that you probably can't even afford, but you want to make sure they know you love them. So you're buying all these extravagant things for people. Or every time you have a hurt, you go out and you spend.
Right.
So how is this negatively impacting you now? So you need to understand that.
And it's programming. And
Yes.
you know, it's one of the things that, you know, really infuriates me about our education system. And I love teachers. That's what I went to school for. But I want you to think about this. Do you realize that we spent 14,000 hours in grade school and high school? 14,000. And how many hours did you and I learn about really managing money?
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. 14,000 hours of programming. You know, if you could picture right here, right now, a keyboard in front of you, 14,000 hours worth of input, right? Most of it false programming. What else is going to show up besides having misconceptions around money? And that's the challenge. So, you know, the big challenge that we face is not the shift in the process of money and around money and the beliefs around money. It's the prior programming up to that point that you're going again. 14,000 hours versus here we are going to try to influence you to a better way, to a better life, a bigger and better future in 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
It's, by the way, it's possible, but ideally we'll start to, you know, seep in there and get a little crack so that you can start to shift. I know as a kid, as I'm thinking about the beliefs, you talked about traumatic events. I remember as a kid that, you know, I had a savings account and things got tight when we were kids, and I was forced to be able to have to turn that into the family because we needed to, you know, pay for meals. And, you know, we were on food stamps at one point. And, you know, I know that created some fears around money and so on. There was another time my dad was an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. I love that about my dad. And there was a time he had this bar that he had opened, a restaurant in the inner city of Detroit, and things were just starting to take off. And a motorcycle gang came into the area and basically overtook it and threatened to blow our house up. Yeah. And I remember being questioned by the FBI at like 10 years old. So is it any wonder that I have some like certain types of fears, anxieties around money and where it goes and what it comes from? And it's why I pursue this passion of work, in fact, to be able to help transform people's lives. Because you know what? The past does not equal the future if you'll take the time to learn and apply what you learn. Isn't that right?
So I don't necessarily want to say that this is what you came away with it, but I could see how what lessons could be learned there, because you were saying it seemed as if the business was just taking off then, right? And it was doing pretty well. And then what happens? Boom.
Something out of your hands, out of your control.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there could be a thing that starts developing of like, ooh, once I start becoming successful, disaster is going to happen.
Right.
Okay. And even though you may not rationally as an adult kind of think that way, your childhood brain is trying to make sense of something, and it's going to file that away, probably in an inaccurate way like that. And then you're going to be subconsciously behaving off of these irrational beliefs of a childhood mind.
So what's an exercise someone listening right now, maybe they can relate to what I just shared. I guess we didn't realize we were going to get into my Dan's therapy here at this Dan therapy session today, but I want to translate this to you and how this can help you watching and listening right now, right? What would you say to me in this case if, you know, that was what I shared with you as far as my beliefs or evidence of that belief as a kid? What would be a couple questions for our viewers and our listeners that you would get them to think about to help them transfer the way they have beliefs around money?
So I have people go through an exercise where you write out your belief. So, I mean, I'm not going to say this is it, but maybe you have some belief that when the business starts becoming successful, disaster will happen. Okay, maybe that's the belief that you end up having. So you need to write it out so you're very clear on what it is. Then there are two sides to this situation. So usually what people do is people have a tendency, this is like huge. Okay, people have a tendency to look for evidence to support their beliefs. Okay, people just naturally do that.
People have a tendency
to look for evidence.
To
support their beliefs.
So
if you have, even if it's an inaccurate belief. So if you have this belief, it's going to be your tendency to search the environment and grab anything that goes with that. So in the exercise, since we naturally do that, we go ahead and do that. And I have you list out all of the evidence, but it has to be real evidence, not just because you're making it up or thinking so. It has to be real evidence that supports that belief. And then we go through that all the way, we exhaust that side out of things. What's your real evidence there? Now, most people stop there. So what we're going to do is we go to the second column, because I haven't do it in columns.
So speaking of that second column, what I want to do is when we come back, I'd like you to cover that second column. And we're going to go deeper with this, folks, as you're watching and listening right now. And before we do, I had promised you a gift package that I want to get in your hands to help you be better with finance, to be better mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, a bigger impact, better influence, the ability to go out and make a difference. So we're going to give you our gift package. It's valued at $197. We've got a limited supply for you. We're going to get you our best-selling book, A Champion in the Making, Awaken the Champion Within Your Life, Business, and Relationships. Our book, Walking with the Wise, with over 30 of the smartest, best mentors in the world, like Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Tom Hopkins, Dan Kennedy, Mark Victor Hansen, yours truly, and a whole lot more. Our audio program, our video program, to help you be a better you, to give you more clarity, capabilities, more confidence, more competencies. And you can get that right now when you pick up the phone and dial our office, and you're just give them your name, your email, some contact information. Call 602-246-3389. That's 602-246-3389. And that package will be yours. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to growthtofreedom.com, the show that helps you transform your life, business, and relationships. Thanks for making us part of your day. And by the way, our show's today presented by Genius Network. All of our guests brought to you by the Genius Network Hotline. Today we're talking about money, how to attract it, how to keep it, how to make it, which is coming up soon. And we left off, let's go ahead and summarize the previous two segments. We've been talking about the biggest epidemic on the planet, in my opinion, which is financial literacy or financial illiteracy, and how we have false beliefs around money. We've been talking about, essentially, we get into a little therapy session here with me and sharing some of my background and my stories. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but if you've ever found yourself up late at night, stressed about money, and so on. And the interesting part is, some of the most successful people in the world that I know also have anxiety. It doesn't shift. There's an adaptation. There's an adjustment that goes on. The more money you make, actually, the more problems you have. They're just different, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about this first step, which is evidence for beliefs, that people put a list together. I gave a couple examples of mine where I had to give savings as a kid. We were, on food stamps, and so that was extremely helpful. And then there was another time my dad had one of his businesses. He had started a bar, and then he got threatened by a motorcycle gang, and the FBI came in and investigated, and we had, conversation. My sister, who I don't know that she remembers it to the extent I did. I think it hit me just a little bit harder. She was a little younger at the time, and I think I processed it more. And I think what you brought up, I mean, I'm thinking about it right here. I'm not sure I'm supposed to share this on a show like this, but as things start to go well, and I recognize that I've repeated a pattern, when things start to go well in business or in other things, I start to get in a little antsy. I get a little anxious and so on. So you had a second step, that second column to be thinking about, moving from evidence for the belief. What's the second one?
So what you just described, that would be common, that you would then develop this anxiety about when things start to be successful, disaster is going to hit.
And I know when we were on the break, one of the things you shared when you tapped on my shoulder, you've also shared this many times that we've talked, what you are feeling is what? Normal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's normal. And by the way, if you have anxieties, if you have, a little bit of embarrassment or feeling of guilt or whatever, that's normal.
Yes.
Right? But here's the thing, don't do nothing with it.
Right. Yeah. Because it's normal and natural, and especially as a kid, because this is where most of your beliefs come from when you're a kid. It's normal and natural to have had those feelings around it. But your childhood brain had to try and make sense of it and help you to survive somehow. So it was trying to help you survive by saying, okay, well then when we get too successful, we got to do something or else this disaster is going to happen. Okay. But now as an adult, now you can go through these steps that we already went through to get to this part of then, okay, so then what real evidence do I have that this belief is actually true? And once you do that side, you have to go to the other side, which is what evidence, and again, real evidence do I have that that's not true?
So I'll give an example of using mine, the savings where I had to, pool it into the family, because so now I have control of where I put my money and who has access to it. So that was more of a one-time type of thing. It's not permanent.
Yes.
That could be a way that someone might label that, or the experience with my dad's business.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The way I would frame that, I would expect would be, well, that happened one time. It doesn't mean that if I ran 9, 10, 12 businesses that it would happen over and over and over again. So would that be an example or
Yes.
potential examples of evidence against this belief?
Yeah, so that would be your evidence about it, is realizing like, okay, yes, this one thing happened when I was a kid, and actually you could end up having a couple of experiences afterward that seem to provide evidence for that. But now you got to look at it in the totality of your whole life,
Right.
and from your adult rational perspective, and you can say like, okay, yes, so that happened with my dad in that one experience, and then maybe you had something, an experience in the future that also did that. But how many experiences did you have that countered that, or that actually showed you the opposite of that? So you have to go through because this is the part people don't do. You have to go through that part. What evidence do I have that is not true? And not only like for myself, but you can also look at other people's experiences, because every person who started to become successful, did they experience a disaster? Maybe some, maybe not. But you got to take it all. And then what you do after you get both of your sides together is you look at the picture in totality.
And what pops up for me, Dr. Lopez, is this idea related. So number one, it's the evidence for that belief.
Yeah.
It's the evidence against that belief.
Yes.
And get thorough with this and get detailed and
Yes.
really get into it, not just leave it surface level. You know,
Right.
a friend of ours through Genius Network, his name is Michael Fishman. He talks about how people respond. He calls it the reptilian brain, and that,
Right.
People, what they can tell you, what they can't tell you, and then what they don't tell you. And the reason they don't tell you is because they don't even know, because it's at such a subconscious, deep level
Yes.
emotionally overall of why they do things or why they don't take actions
Right.
with certain things, or they're making decisions.
Yep.
The second level, why they do things, that's now they kind of understand, but it's still very surface. So this helps us
Yeah.
go deeper with that, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think from a psychology perspective, it's your conscious, and then your subconscious, and then the unconscious. Okay,
That's great.
And that's what this stuff is doing. Is it's helping you to get down to the deeper unconscious level, the subconscious and the unconscious level, because it's that stuff that will quickly, again, powerfully override your conscious rational mind. Okay, so you can help it though by now as an adult consciously working through these things and consciously getting to a more accurate belief now from your perspective as an adult. So your previous belief may have been, as soon as I experience some sort of success, disaster is going to hit. Okay, now that you have done this exercise, then you reframe and restructure to a more accurate belief. And you have to come up with some sort of statement like that. Now, usually when you do your restructured belief, it's going to be a little bit longer because you're taking into account the totality of things. So it could be something like, so I did have an experience of success, and then it led to a disaster. But for the most part, because probably for the most part would be the case, I have been able to be successful without disaster hitting. Okay, so you kind of acknowledge this first part, but put it for what it was, a one-time thing, or there was this incident. But for the most part, that has not been the way. What has been the way is I've been able to be successful without disaster hitting. And then you can even add to it to be like, and I can continue to be thriving and more successful every day, because now what you're trying to do is program your brain to where you want it to go. So your brain is really entrenched in the where it was. So you got to work with the where it was, where you are right now, and through your language, you're restructuring this, and then the where you're trying to go. So now you're replacing the language to be future, current, present and future oriented, so that you can start creating in your brain the new neural network that goes with where you're trying to go, instead of that heavily dense old neural network that you always go back to.
And speaking of the old neural network, a couple things pop up for me. I remember back as a kid, I was in my early 20s, and I went to a Tony Robbins event. And, at the time he was big into NLP, neuro-associative conditioning, and pattern interrupts, right? And he talked a lot about how we can instantly, in an instant, you can change your state, you can change your story, and ultimately change your life.
Right.
And what you're saying to a degree is to go through this exercise to be able to do the same thing. The past does not equal the future, and you can make the change. Now, I know, wow, time flies when we're having fun. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
So why don't you share with everybody where people can get in touch with you to learn more about your work, your coaching, your therapy, et cetera, if they have an interest in reaching out to you?
So I have a website you can go to, which is www.ChristyLopezPhD.com.
So that's ChristyLopezPhD.com.
Exactly. Yeah, no H in my Christy. So that's the website. You can reach out through the website to me. My phone number is 602-323-6955. 602-323-7824. 602-323-7824. So you can call me, you can go to the website, you can contact me through there. So
and what type of things will people find? I mean, what kind of programs do you offer? Resources, training, coaching?
Yes.
What are some of the things that you offer?
So I have kind of both arms. I have the therapy arm, and then I have the coaching, mentoring arm. And then you can, I have packages, I have individual sessions. So there's various different ways that you can utilize my services depending on what makes most sense for you. And then there are things on the website that where I have like a blog, so I'll have some information, some resources, some things like that you can read. So you can look around in there, kind of see if there's anything helpful in there. You can also call me or email me if you'd like to work together to help you get to where you're trying to go.
And speaking of which, I want to encourage you to reach out to Dr. Lopez for her coaching, her support, her tools, her resources. You can reach her at ChristyLopezPhD.com. That's ChristyLopezPhD.com. I want to thank you for being with us, Christy.
Thank
and when
you.
we come back, we've got Phil Mutrie, Phil Mutrie Network, sharing some incredible tools on how to make more money. We'll be right back. Welcome back to GrowthToFreedom.com, the show that helps you transform your life, business, and relationship. What a show already that we've had, these first few segments of the show. We've had Dr.Cristy Lopez talking about how to keep more money, how to be a better you, your beliefs around money, most of them being false. You know, what I would say is, what would it be worth? What if you could take your limiting belief? I mean, if you've got beliefs that are serving you to your very core, to your very best, living the life you deserve, which that may be the case. But if you're maybe like a lot of people who might feel there might be something better, that you deserve more, that you do want a better way, well, I encourage you to pay attention to the show. And by the way, you can go back and listen to the show at growthtofreedom.com/9. That's growthtofreedom.com/9 to re-listen, re-watch. You can go visit us on iTunes as well. But this show is something that's just near and dear to my heart. I believe the biggest issue in this country, in this world, is financial illiteracy. And you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. You can take your limiting belief to create unlimiting beliefs, and take a limiting belief, at least unlock it to become more serving, supportive, to be a better you. And one last time today, I want to encourage you to go get our gift package that I believe will set you on a path to a bit better, bigger you, provide you the ability to make a bigger impact, make a bigger difference, greater influence. You can get our gift package valued at $197. You can get our free book, A Champion in the Making, Awaken the Champion Within Your Life, Business and Relationships, Walking with the Wise, with over 30 mentors, including people like Tom Hopkins, Jim Rohn, Mark Victor Hansen, Dan Kennedy, Joe Polish, and so many more. I believe this is going to help you unlock your potential mentally, physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally. You can get our audio program included, our video program. It's all, by the way, it's free. By the way, did I tell you that? It's a free gift package. You can call our office right now and get it at 602-246-3389. That's 602-246-3389, or go to the website at growthtofreedom.com/gift. Now, I'm excited about this segment because we've got a special gentleman who's a good friend of mine, a dear friend. Years ago, we had a chance to work together. He came through our coaching program, our mentoring program. He founded a company in 2007. He helps internet marketing people, the internet marketing industry, get more success. Has an ability to be able to help you create more freedom, joy, happiness, and ongoing achievement. And our guest today is Phil Mutrie on the Experts Freedom Formula. Phil, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm glad to have you with us. I want to dive right into it. Why don't you tell everybody who is Phil Mutrie? Let's start there.
Phil Mutrie is a creation of Dan Kuschell.
Well, that's giving me way too much credit, unless somehow I've turned into an omniscient being that I'm not aware of.
But that is so true. I did all the work, but you created I created the outcome, but you created the machine, right? So you created the machine. I followed the machine that you set out for me to do in my business, and thus great outcomes and great results. And look at where I am here today, right?
Well, I'm grateful
going
you would
strong
say
and
that,
higher
Phil. I
level.
do think you're giving me way too much credit. I didn't realize I could walk on water, but I guess for today I'll take the compliment. And so let's dive into your expert's freedom formula. I know you've had an incredible opportunity to impact hundreds, if not thousands, of people all over the world with what you do. You're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to me. I've told you this many times in our private conversations over the years. So what is the expert's freedom formula, and what does it do? What can it help people do?
Well, the expert's freedom formula is a solid foundation to attracting a steady stream of high ticket paying clients. Basically, it works in any niche, any market. It takes a webinar into a entirely different level. And one thing that we like to do is we don't like to call them webinars, because people see the name or the word webinar and they think, oh, it's just another pitch, right?
Right.
So what we do in place of webinar is we call it either a workshop or an event or a seminar. And what we do is we structure in what we call just-in-time. Have you ever heard of just-in-time, Dan?
I have, yes.
Yes? Just-in-time is offered by a company by the name of Stell Seminar. So basically when somebody clicks on an advertisement, you're running say for Facebook advertising, they click on the ad, it goes over to the webinar page or the workshop page in this case, and it has a countdown timer that starts at around 2 minutes, which if the client clicks, it's just in time for that next workshop to happen. So when they register for that workshop, what you're doing is you're doing a no-pitch presentation. What a lot of people in the industry do is they give a presentation and then they pitch you at the end, thus less conversions.
So what you're talking about, Phil, is an ability to create value creation or value proposition in advance before you make an offer, right? You're talking about using a tool like a webinar platform. Now, for someone who might be sitting here, maybe they don't have a business. Now, most of our audience are entrepreneurs, small business owners, leaders out there. How can someone who's a leader, small business owner, look at putting a webinar platform or what you're referring to as a workshop using video online, like a stealth webinar model, in place to help them, number one, build their expertise and or create it, and B, accelerate it?
Well, to accelerate how we've done it is with the workshop is teaching business owners, any business in any niche or any market industry, to turn around and take their product and turn it into an 8-week workshop, in and out in 8 weeks. In case of what we do is we turn around and we work on mindset first and foremost. Then we turn into basically teaching this workshop model with the webinar format, and then creating the course around it. Does that make sense?
Yes. So if I hear you correctly, number one, it starts with the mindset of being an entrepreneur. Of course, there's a lot of details to this, and people can reach out to you. We'll talk about how they can do that here shortly, but it's around the mindset, number one. Number two, you create the workshop. Number three, you create the actual content itself to be able to deliver that value. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So I want to shift gears just a little bit, because these are definitely tactics that work, and I know without a doubt you show people how to do that. What I'd like to do, because I know you've had an evolution in your business career over the years, and I'd like to almost put you on a hot seat here, and I'm going to throw out like a rapid fire, like a certain statement or idea, and I'd love to get your take and your view and your rant on it, if you will, in short order, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up and let people know how to contact you to learn more about how they could work with you if they want to get into some of the tactics of building an expert freedom formula for themselves and putting that in place. Does that sound fair?
Sounds fair to me, Dan.
Awesome. So if you had to pick the biggest mistake that you've made in your career, what would that be, and what'd you learn from it?
Well, I would have to say that my first 6 months of wanting to achieve any type of success, I did not invest in mentorship. When I finally decided that mentorship and coaching and learning from somebody that was already successful was the way to go, it was the best money that I ever spent. If I had not of and I held back, I wouldn't be the success that I am today.
And I think in your first 6 months in total business, you generated what, like $6 or $9 in gross revenue?
was about $17.26, and I invested over 1,000 hours of work hours into structuring the model online, and I was doing everything that didn't work.
So you were investing in programs, over 1,000 hours in of education, self-education, and your gross earnings after 6 long months was $17.26. Don't you know?
You got it.
Don't you know that you're supposed to quit when that happens? I mean, you're just a great example of persistence, aren't you?
That's right.
So knowing what
I didn't quit.
I'm very grateful you didn't quit either, right? We would have never been able to develop our friendship. So knowing what you know now, right? Looking back over the last decade of your success, failures, etc., and learning, knowing what you know now, thinking of our audience who's watching and listening right here, right now, what would you do differently that would exponentially multiply your results 10 times?
I would definitely make that investment in yourself to reach out to a mentor or a coach, get some consulting, and learn what works, and just quit doing what doesn't work. Because if you're down an avenue already that isn't working, you need to do something that works. Reach out to somebody that already knows what does.
Find something that works. Find somebody who does. Speaking of that, I believe you're somebody who does. You have figured it out. Please tell our audience here in about 30 seconds or less how they can reach out to you to get more information to be able to work with Phil Mutrie and your incredible programs.
Well, you could reach out to philipmutrienetwork.com. That's Philip with one L, Philip, M as in Mary, UTRIE, network.com. Or you can call my toll-free number at 888-665-8896.
Repeat that number one more time, please.
Be 888-665-8896.
Wonderful. Well, Phil, it's been a pleasure to have you with the show. And you know what? Time flies when we're having fun. We're going to have to bring you on for a full segment. And you know what, folks? As you're listening right now, here's what I know in my heart of hearts. You deserve it. You're the best. And in fact, I hope you'll repeat. If there's something in this show touches you, I hope you'll repeat in your head, or maybe as you're driving, say it out loud and say, I'm a winner. I'm a champion. I'm the best. I deserve it. I'm an action taker. I'm a mover and a shaker. And I encourage you, find a mastermind, find a collaboration group, find a coach. Because I know what it can do for you. I appreciate you being with us here today. You can tweet us at Dan_Kuschell. That's Dan_Kuschell. Or email us at info@growthtofreedom.com. I think you're better for it by having Dr. Cristy Lopez with us today. Phil Mutrie, we're better for it. And I look forward to having you part of our next show next week. On behalf of Growth to Freedom, tune in next week with more clarity, confidence, and direction. Seize the day and make it a great week.